Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade, and we're starting our weekly webinar. As you could see, it changed a little bit of a face. Uh, the presentation looks a little bit different with different colors. I hope it brings more energy into it as well. Okay, so we're starting our webinar. Welcome, everyone, especially the new people. And the title is Trading Prospects Mapping Out Your Week Ahead. And as I always say, quoting some traders, they like to say, or we like to say as traders, you plan your trade and then you trade your plan. And in any aspects of our lives, if we do take our time, few minutes or whatever it takes to plan a little bit ahead and create a structure, it just creates more order and less chaos in our actions. And that also works for trading, especially. A few things about myself. My name is Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. I started my trading career in June of 2000. As you know, a famous .com bubble burst, and I've been involved with trading since then. I did the prop trading for about 11 years, and then I moved into a less stressful environment and started also to mentor and educate other traders. And of course, I'm very happy that I have an opportunity to assist our customers at AvaTrade. The agenda of the webinar. What we do here, we try to mix fundamentals with technicals. We try to analyze what happened the week before and try to make sense of things that are upcoming. That includes the announcements. We look at economic calendar, and then we go through the assets by indices, stocks, commodities, and forex. And of course, today we'll do the same. Risk warning, you can find the full statement at avatrade.com. And of course, everything we do here is purely educational. So before we go into the charts and everything else, I just want to kind of summarize what happened last week. As you know, I've been involved with markets. The equity market has been super strong, constantly making new highs. And last week, two major events really caused huge moves in the market. One, it was actually unexpected. It was on Thursday when, through all the media channels, came the warning that Iran is looking to attack Israel in retaliation. And I don't remember the source of it. It was US. They said that it's going to happen within the next 48 hours. A lot of panic, and market actually reacted to it. We'll take a look when we look at the charts. And then also we had the NFP numbers, as we mentioned last week, preparing for that, that in general, NFP numbers are very important, that during that announcement, volatility increases and that affects mostly equity markets, US dollar and gold, and the same thing happened this time. Now, during the announcement, market initially sold because we had the huge numbers, way higher than expected as far as the jobs added. Also, we had improvement in unemployment numbers. So initially, market sold, and then we recovered towards the end of the day. So we did have a positive day on Friday, but overall markets closed for the week in the negative territory. I'll give you the numbers when we get to the charts. So that's how we ended the week. We ended the week lower, and we're coming into the upcoming week with more announcements. Of course, thank God there was no attack from Iran. Some were speculating it could be nuclear or whatever the thing is. People like to speculate. We have enough wars, I think. Don't think starting another one would be something good, as you understand. Okay, so now let's take a look at a few things that I that I prepared here. VIX, as you know, some call it fear indicator. This is volatility indicator. It shows right here. Thursday moved very strongly to the upside, as you could see, from below 14 to about 17. And then Friday, it corrected itself a little bit, still closed at 16. So a strong move since we were sitting around 13 for a very long time, and uh, a move in VIX indicators shows usually the fear, as I mentioned, some traders call it the fear indicator, and it could be potential sell-off on the market. So that's what happened. Market sold on Thursday and VIX moved higher, but as you could see, market came back in a way on Friday, at least partially, and VIX had a smaller correction here. Important to realize. Also, what happened uh, on Friday, we had the move up in the 10-year yields since the NFP numbers came strong. Immediately, this happened, and as you could see, we are above this channel that we mentioned, about between 420 and 432. But paradoxically, gold actually made a new high. Usually this move to the upside would be followed or go together with the gold selling and dollar moving higher, but gold actually made the all-time high. We'll analyze it when we get to the charts, and I'll share with you a few things fundamentally about the gold. So important to notice that we are strong on the 10-year yields here. And here's gold. Okay, prepared this slide as well. This is all from Barron's. It's a nice article. You can find it, and they give the details here. Pretty much simple. The central banks are buying gold, trying to hedge themselves against the inflation and the strong dollar. So that grows. And another thing that I found by doing the research preparing for this webinar, that actually in China, people, investors, regular investors, as trying to really find a safe haven in gold, buying gold as well, and a lot of it is happening. So we'll take a look technically on gold, but it just made an all-time high. Okay, so that's as far as what happened and some indication. Now, this is the economic calendar. It's important to mention, especially to new people, that over here at presentation, I take the high impacts only. There's so much more in economic calendar. You can find it on our web trader or a mobile app or any provider. You can just Google economic calendar and find it. So here, as you could see, high impact all in red. And also important to mention, if you use it in details or if you ignore it, it's totally up to you. But I believe strongly that knowing about especially these high impact events, it's very important. It can prevent us from being shocked or called by surprise. Imagine on Friday you wouldn't know the NFPs are coming and you saw the initially drop in the market, you wouldn't know what happened, right? So prepare yourself, and again, based on what you like to do or what's your strategy, what's your trading style, either you trade, you get into the trades, you stay away and wait till things cool down. It's up to you, but knowing these things, it's very, very important. So let's just go through them really, really quick. So Swiss National Bank Chairman Jordan speaks on Monday. Tuesday, we have a bank lending survey from ECB, European Central Bank. Wednesday, we have interest rate decision from New Zealand. Now, New Zealand dollar, as we mentioned a few weeks back, it's been weak, and I think this past week it's been recovering a little bit. So let's see how and what the decision would be made and how it's going to affect the New Zealand dollar. It's early Wednesday, decision followed by the statement. Now, after the strong data, and I'm going to step back for a second just to remind us on the Feds and the Powell as the chair, they in their decision, they pay attention to three major aspects: is the growth of the economy, employment, unemployment levels, and of course, the inflation. So we just had high employment, and we have another round of consumer price index for March, and it's being reported on Wednesday. So speaking of volatility, when this number comes out, we should be expecting increase of volatility. Again, they are hoping on the lower inflation, so that would help them in something they're focusing on and start cutting the rates. Now, also this past week, some of the Fed representative mentioned that it might not be the Fed from Minnesota, I think. He mentioned that it might not be any cuts till the end of the year. There's some different opinions out there. So if the inflation is not falling, which is a very tricky one, we had oil running up, we had gold running up, and everything else is pricey. So it could be that inflation is not really giving up. So we might see the Fed's language changing or ideas changing. Also, if you watch the CME Fed kind of mood indicator, since the NFP numbers came out, it fell from I think from 60 something percent to about 49% right after the numbers of employment coming in. So this consumer price index coming out on Wednesday is very, very important. Also, interest rate decision from Bank of Canada. When we look at the Forex, I'll show it to you that even though oil had a nice run, usually Canadian dollar runs with it. This time it didn't. And also some analysts predicting that we might see the cut on the interest rate from Bank of Canada this week, as they say that environment is actually pushing for it. Some of the analysts feel that way. So let's see. We have the decision on Wednesday, followed by the press conference and the statements. So that wraps up the Wednesday announcements. Thursday, we have CPI numbers from China. China's in focus, of course, trying to recover there. We have rate decisions from European Central Bank and the statement and the press conference as well. So it's also important. We have PPI numbers from US on Thursday following this CPI as well. And Friday, we have CPI from Germany and Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. So it's a strong calendar, a lot of strong events happening. So we have two major interest rate decisions, three actually, New Zealand, Canada, and European Central Bank. And we have also FOMC minutes here, right? And CPI numbers and PPI numbers. So it's going to be a lot of, let's call it a roller coaster. Maybe it's a little bit exaggerating, but we might see that this week, especially when the markets are very sensitive, as you could see. And there's a new aspect coming in that the market's reacting to its geopolitics. As I mentioned, with Iran announcing a threat and market reacting to it immediately. Okay, so let's go into the trading terminal, and let's start with China. Take a look here on the daily chart. We are still channeling here within 100, 200 points. As you could see here, we did try to break through this resistance that we mentioned the previous week, but we having a hard time. We did have one closing, and then the rest of the week we were below. So still channeling here, accumulating for move. It could be move up, it could be move down. Depends on a lot of things, on the fundamentals in China. Of course, the global market situation as well will be affecting it, and vice versa. China's situation is also affecting the global markets. Japan had a sell-off after making the highs here. We did dip before the previous resistance here of 40,290, and we are kind of testing the 50-day moving average here. So let's take a look at US indices, and I'll explain and show what happened on Thursday. Take a look at this move, right? This is Thursday at, I mean, the big move started at 5:30 p.m. GMT time, I think that's what it came, that threat. Market just sold really heavily, and then we start a recovery process. Also, I want to find where the NFP numbers came out. I think right here. So as you could see, Thursday was a strong sell-off, and Friday we had a recovery. I mean, roughly maybe a 50-70% recovery on that thing. So I'll just give you the numbers. The S&Ps closed up on Friday 1.1%, and for the week, there's still it's a down week for S&Ps right here. Dow Jones on Friday rose 0.8%, but still down on the week. It's a strong sell-off for the week. As you could see, we almost erased the two previous intense moves to the upside. And where's NASDAQ? NASDAQ as well had a nice move on Friday. Recovery after the NFPs, 1.2% to the upside. And on the weekly chart, we are in red as well. Germany had a sell-off on week closing below the previous week's low. As you could see here, pretty much on daily chart, we've been sliding lower the whole week. And UK as well, we had the 3 days of sell-off with the huge tails here. Let's see if we actually made that all-time high. We did. See briefly. Last week we did actually have this brief move above the all-time high, but we did close lower. So as you could see, indices are in a very interesting situation. Let's take S&P as a general indication here. We had the previous week we closed at the all-time highs, and this week was a sell-off and closing below last week's low. So again, with everything happening, we have Feds, right? Just try to put it all together. We have the Feds focusing on cutting the rates, and with the upcoming data, especially the latest NFPs, it looks like that rate cut is being pushed. And some analysts are saying that the market is really focusing on the good things, and that's the reason we didn't sell off on Friday. We moved higher. It looks like the market is taking this strong numbers as really positive for the equity market. So let's see if that's the case. Also, we have geopolitics heating up, especially Middle East. So we have CPI and other inflation numbers coming upcoming weeks. So let's see how this week will play. Will we continue this? Is this the sign of reversal in the equity markets here, this past week's action, or is it a normal profit taking? We're moving higher. Also, fundamentally, there are analysts that they're predicting a continuation of the strength. If you remember last week, we give the numbers. They have targets for S&P, for instance. Some have 5,200, some have 5,500 towards the end of the year, some even 57. So the others say that the market is overheated, overbought. It's time for correction. So as always, different opinions. So with all this data coming out, and also public and traders digesting all the data over the weekend, let's see how we will start the week. So that's as far as equities. Also, we're starting the earnings season for the first quarter, and it kicks in on Friday with the big banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup. So let's see how those are. We're gonna go and look at them shortly. Okay, so that's as far as indices. Let's move to stocks, and we'll take a look at certain specific stocks here. Let's start actually with oil stocks. As oil moved higher, we'll take a look in a moment. So let's take a look at Exxon and Chevron. Exxon, it looks like, made all-time high on this move. very strong move. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive weeks to the upside, and it looks like each week is a higher range besides this previous two. This past week was a large range. So that's Exxon, Chevron, not as strong, but still moving higher here. Few stocks sold heavily. That's Intel. And I was watching an interview of CEO, and it wasn't too convincing to me. He's trying to convince the public. I mean, it's a big sell-off here. Trying to convince the public that the company had a lot of expenses. They're building new factories, and it cost them a lot of money. So, give an example: if you open a new one, you spend $3 billion, and it's not going to be profitable for the next 5-7 years. But then the profits start kicking in, and things are getting better. He's promising some nice profits toward 2027, and towards the end of the decade. I don't know if the investors are buying it. It doesn't look like it. We had a huge gap here and the 3 consecutive days to the downside. So on the weekly chart, we are approaching the 50-week moving average here. Again, it doesn't look like the investors and traders like to stay in the stock with the promises like that. So that's Intel. Another stock that's selling that caught my attention is Nike. You remember this was the earnings, and then we continue sliding lower, and the hope is that we are at the support. If we are this low here, 88.58, we really approaching there. What was the low here? Yeah, we're about 16 cents away from this. Now we did bounce from here, making a higher high. So if the real buyers are there, we might see some buying actions going on. So it's worth watching this upcoming week. If we do break through this level here, we might continue sliding. So that's Nike. Another stock selling is Tesla. Also, I looked for the reasons here, and it looks like Reuters reported that the Model 2 that was promised by Tesla, it's not happening. So the stock sold here, and then Musk on the X platform, he said it's not true, everything is as planned. So I'm not really sure. What's going to happen. I mean, Reuters, it's a reputable source. They say it's not happening. Musk is saying it's not true. So in any event, Tesla stock's has been weak, but we are holding this low of mid-March around $160. So that's on Tesla. On the positive side, we had Meta or Facebook hitting all-time highs. It looks like it. Stock is super strong. Amazon is moving higher as well. Good to see here. Now on Amazon, we are approaching the all-time highs here. We haven't gotten there yet. So let's see if we are continuing here. GM stock, it's been strong. It looks like we could have hit the resistance here. Somehow we had a reversal, a strong reversal on Thursday. Now, the question is, will we hold this current level here? And if we are, we might continue higher. So the high here was 43.59. That was on February 12th, the week of February 12th. And it looks like on this sell-off, we stopped right there. The low is 43.59, and then Friday we bounced a little bit. So let's see. It looks like GM is trying to hold it there. And of course, this scenario, if we do break below it and start building resistance, we might see the correction to the downside. Now, the banks, as I mentioned to you, banks are reporting. Among them, that's JP Morgan Citi. So JP Morgan, it looks like we had the double top here. Thursday reaction to the downside. Let's see how the earnings will work out. Bank of America, the same situation. Goldman here, it looks like we trying to test this level here from which was sold, and that was 2022 January. The high was 412.14. So you could see here. And again, the banks are starting to report this week. Let's see how it will play. And Teva is regaining its strength. It's a nice correction here, so we should be watching. Here's we're in a very good situation because we have specific parameters. You have a high of March 27, which was 14.13. Wait a minute, doesn't make sense. The high, sorry, 14.40, and the low of the recent correction is 13.63. We did have Friday move up, so we should be watching this level here around 14.40. And as I mentioned a few weeks back, some analysts are saying that I was setting up the price of $19 for the stock. And just to remind us, this monthly chart that we mentioned, that will start breaking through first 10, 11, 13, 14. Now we are about 14 level, and it opens the new field. Now I'm going to switch for a moment to the MT5. I just want to show you the NVIDIA. As we mentioned a few times, NVIDIA is moving the markets with the AI components that's producing. And the stock had its second consecutive week to the downside. And Thursday was a big sell-off. Friday, we recovered roughly half of it. So we'll be continuing watching NVIDIA as a leader and see how things play out. So that's it as far as the stocks. Let's go to commodities. We'll start with oil, as we mentioned. Oil started running up strongly since the issues in the Middle East. And wow, take a look. Just realize we do have this thing they call golden cross that analysts are watching sometimes. That's where the 50 moving average is climbing about 200. We just established it, I think, with the last day. And we did hit on Friday the high of 87.61. And we are higher than October of last year. So we continue climbing. It doesn't look like things are cooling down in the Middle East, so we might see continuation here. And just to remind us what I mentioned last week, that on the demand side, the consumer spending is pushing it higher. On the supply side, we had the Russia announcing cuts, and now there's a threat in the Middle East issues. So it looks like oil has the environment for continuation to the upside. And if we are moving higher, we should be watching these levels here from which was sold, and that was back in October. And the high here is 89.5, around that. So that's crude. Natural gas, we saw a nice pop here, but then the rest of the week we are sliding. Friday was a positive day. We're sitting right on the 50-day moving average. So let's see what happens. And if you remember, I mentioned to you the 4-year cycle that's clear here. 2016 we moved higher. 2020 we moved higher around April, and now we're back again 4 years exactly. So let's see if that creates a buying situation here. If not, we'll be watching the immediate support here around 165, and the resistance around $2. So we'll be watching natural gas. Gold, as I mentioned, just made all-time highs and closed at the highs. So the high of the Friday was 2330.44. We closed about $1 lower from the all-time highs. So that's strong sign, like we mentioned on the slide. A lot of buying, physical buying on central banks in China. The investors are switching to gold for security. Okay, copper. We mentioned copper last week that has a potential to run up on a Chinese recovery. It was a strong week for copper after the correction here with the strong move, especially on Wednesday. We moved from 406 to 423, and we did close at the highs of the week. So we'll continue watching copper. And cocoa, very tricky. Cocoa does the same trick again as it did here, did here. It gives hope to short sellers that this is the top, and then take a look. The second last day of the week, we moved higher. Friday was a strong reversal here. Take a look. We hit at the open, we hit the low of 91.46, and we closed almost at $10. We closed at 99.25. So we'll continue watching cocoa. At least we know the highs. The high here was established on the 1st of April. The high was 10,309, and this could be our challenge on the downside. That's the Thursday low of 91.46. So that's it on commodities. Now, US dollar and Forex, let's take a quick look. As I mentioned to you, on the 10-year yields moving higher, dollar normally would be moving higher as well. It didn't. We have a retest. We had this week a retest, as we mentioned, 104.83. That was on Tuesday. Wednesday was sold below that 104.15 level that was talked a lot about. Thursday was a flat day with the initial sell-off. Friday, we had to move up into the channel, but then close lower. So now we again below 104.15, a strong level of resistance. Let's see how this week will play. Of course, we have CPI data and other things happening this week, FOMC. And the question is, will the dollar continue high here, or we're going to have a correction to the downside? Now, Canadian dollar, this, as I mentioned, I want to show it to you. Take a look. Oil is running higher, and normally Canadian dollar or this pair USD CAD would be weak, but it's going higher. That means the Canadian dollar has weakness or experiencing weakness. And the main reason there's a hope or indication that the Bank of Canada this upcoming week might actually start cutting the rates, which would affect the Canadian dollar negative. So it's priced in. So the idea here is, if they're not cutting, which is kind of anticipated, that would actually push the Canadian dollar higher. So this pair USD CAD would actually fall, and any other pairs with Canadian dollar would be affected strongly. And if they do cut, that might be already priced in. So we'll definitely be watching any pair with Canadian dollar in it. Now, Japanese yen, as you could see, USD CAD is sitting here in a very tight range here within 100 pips. It looks like accumulation is happening. Just to remind us, recently they finally got out of the negative zone. They increased the interest rates to 0% from minus 0.1, and some are hoping that the increase will follow. And Japanese yen has been sitting in a very tight range, so something is building up here. Now, as I mentioned to you also, New Zealand dollar had a nice correction this past week after a big sell-off here. And the question is, what's with the interest rates upcoming this week? So we'll be following that as well. And Swiss franc, if you remember, I think it's right here when the Swiss franc started the process of cutting the rates. Initially, it sold. It continued. Now it's cooling down a little bit. And this pair right here that I've been following for a very long time, CHF JPY, it's also ranging here after a sell-off. It's not really recovering. So as you could see here, we officially, we could say we're in a downtrend here, as we made a lower high and a lower low here, and we are sitting, accumulating here, consolidating. So we'll be definitely watching this pair. If anything to happen in increase in interest rate in Japan, this thing would break through the 200 moving average, as you could see, sitting right on it. And of course, it could move higher and retest the 50 moving average here. So that's as far as Japanese yen. Let's just take a look at CAD CHF. You see right here, even though CHF has been weak, but CAD is selling 3 days in a row into the next week's decision. So you can take a look at all the pairs with Canadian dollar, and you'll find out the CAD is showing weakness. Here's the Aussie CAD, huge move up. And actually, this is a very interesting situation here. We are at the resistance here, very strong level. So again, this would be interesting pair to watch with a strong move, intense move, 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive days to the upside, and we stop right at the resistance. So if Bank of Canada is not cutting the rates, we might see a nice reversal here. EuroCAD, similar situation, where at the strong resistance here. So definitely we'll be watching here. And here's NZD-CAD, nice recovery. All right. So again, we'll be seeing an effect of the upcoming announcements for the dollar, for gold, of course, for equity markets, and other decisions we have from European Central Bank, and New Zealand dollar will be affected by the decision of Bank of New Zealand. And here's a euro above the 200 moving average, above 0.8, sitting right on 50-day moving average. So it looks like markets are waiting for those things. We'll be waiting for those things as well, the announcements, and it's going to be a very active week. So I hope that you're having a nice rest this weekend and preparing yourself for the week. Now, these are the channels of our trade that I highly recommend for you to subscribe to. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, or X-Twitter, which is X now. And then my favorite, as I always say, YouTube channel, where you can find a lot of useful information. You have educational material, you have tutorials, you have webinars being recorded and posted on YouTube. So please subscribe, click likes if you do like it, share with people, and click on that bell that you'll be notified. So I want to thank everyone for participating. You can find the recording here if you like. If you are watching it on YouTube, please write your comments and suggestions. It would be great for me to see it. Have a wonderful and successful week. All the best. Take care.